In Hebrews chapter 11, we learn about special people who trusted God with all their hearts. Let's go on a journey and meet these heroes. The heroes of faith. Abel wanted to show his love for God by giving him the best he had.
I give you my best, Lord. Please accept my offering.
God was pleased with Abel's gift and knew that Abel's heart was full of love. Even though Abel isn't with us anymore, his faith still teaches us today. Enoch loved spending time with God and trusted him so much that one day God took him to heaven without him ever dying. God was so pleased with Enoch that he took him straight to heaven. Without faith, it is impossible to make God happy. Noah trusted God even when God told him about something no one had ever seen before, a big flood.
I will obey the Lord and build this ark to save my family.
Noah followed God's plan and built the ark to save his family and all the animals. Noah's faith saved him and his family. He trusted God, even when the world didn't believe. Abraham trusted God's promise. God told him that his descendants would be as many as the stars in the sky. Abraham, Sarah, and Lot left their home, even though they didn't know where God was leading them. They trusted him. Abraham finally reached the land God had promised him. By faith, he lived there, knowing God had kept his promise. God kept his promise to Sarah. Even though she was old, by faith, she had a baby boy, Isaac. Sarah and Abraham were so happy. God had given them a son, just like he promised. Sarah knew that God is faithful. She trusted him, and he kept his promise. Moses grew up as a prince, but he saw the suffering of God's people, the Hebrews. By faith, he decided to leave his rich life behind. Moses chose to suffer with God's people instead of enjoying life as a prince. By faith, Moses led the Israelites through the Red Sea. God made a path through the water just for them. Rahab had great courage. By faith, she hid the Israelite spies to protect them. Rahab trusted that God would save her and her family.
Stay hidden. I believe God will protect us.
By faith, Rahab and her family were saved when Jericho fell. Gideon trusted God even when his army was small. By faith, he led them against a huge enemy. By faith, Gideon's army won the battle.
The Lord is with us. We will win.
They smashed jars and blew trumpets, and the enemy became confused. Samson, even in his weakest moment, trusted God for strength.
Lord, give me strength one last time.
David, with faith in God, defeated the giant Goliath.
The Lord helped me defeat the giant.
And became a great king who ruled with justice.
Give thanks unto the Lord.
Samuel, the prophet, listened to God and by faith anointed a king for Israel. Many heroes trusted God through dangerous times. By faith, Daniel was safe in the lion's den, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were protected in the fiery furnace. By faith, these heroes received God's promise, and they are now rewarded in heaven. All these heroes trusted God, even though they didn't see His promise in their lifetime. But by faith, they knew something better was waiting for them. God has something better planned for all of us. Through faith, we are connected to His promise. Join us on a journey through the Hall of Faith. Subscribe now for more faith-filled stories.
Hebrews chapter 11. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death. He could not be found, because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness that is in keeping with faith. By faith Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and as countless as the sand on the seashore. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, and so in a manner of speaking he did receive Isaac back from death. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. By faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons, and worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. By faith Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt, and gave instructions concerning the burial of his bones. By faith Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born, because they saw he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God, rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and the application of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. By faith the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith the walls of Jericho fell, after the army had marched around them for 7 days. By faith the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith. Yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect.
Subscribe now for more faith-filled stories.